right, welcome back to the Charge On podcast with Pastor Wayne Bray. On this podcast, we equip believers to charge on and live out their faith in the real world. I'm your host, Dallas Wilson, and I'm joined as always by the one, the only,
Wayne Bray.
Pastor Wayne Bray.
Thank you, brother.
I would say how you doing today, but we record, let's be honest, we're recording this the same day we recorded episode 1.
I'm exactly the way I was in the first episode.
The thing that's actually true is the people who are listening to it are different than
For sure.
the first one.
Yeah.
Not for us, though. All right, episode 2, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Me too.
I really am hopeful for this podcast. I think it's hard, though, to get into some deep topics, which just for the viewers at home, we plan on getting into some deep topics.
Sure.
As we go. I'm really excited to introduce the people to cultural engagement, what that means, how it's going to be different for our church, talking about some hard things. But I think it's hard to kind of get into some of those deep topics until people can really, really get a feel for who you are mainly, but also who we are. Maybe
it's going to be us, though.
Yeah, maybe even who we are as a team and a staff, though. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
I think some people may be tempted to watch this podcast and think, man, they're just doing that for the podcast. This is literally the same way off of podcasts.
This is real deal, good or bad.
Yeah, maybe we say a few less things on the podcast than we would say off the podcast.
Maybe.
We won't elaborate on that anymore.
No.
But yeah, so
we don't want to offend any North Carolina fans.
North Carolina fans, yeah, we don't
Kentucky fans,
Yeah, let's just go ahead and get this out there. College football starts
this Saturday.
This Saturday
for us
when we're recording.
Yeah.
But how you feeling?
Roll Tide.
How you feeling about your Tide?
I mean, better than I did last year, but I'm sure that could change week 1.
Let's just do this. Let's get it on camera. Let's get it on tape. Give us a prediction, a win-loss prediction for the season.
For us,
yeah,
I think
regular season, 12 games.
Probably a 2-loss team. I bet 10-2. We got a chance in the playoffs. Probably not, though. I don't know.
Who's the 2 losses?
I don't really know. It could be even like South Carolina. I mean, y'all heard that. Y'all hear that humility?
Yeah,
it could be.
That was real.
But we're in Columbia, man. And so we play against Georgia in Athens.
Yeah, that's going to be hard.
I mean, that could be the 2 losses.
So I'm a dog. Go Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually say we're a 2-loss team. I feel like we may have a 3rd loss. I'm really worried about us this year. So I'm going to go 10-2 out of eternal optimism, and we'll win a natty. So I'm going to go eternal optimist. But we could also be 9-3. But
yeah, and we could both be 12-0. Well, not both. But
well,
one or the other could be 12-0.
It
could.
Yeah.
And I'm a Georgia fan second.
Does church attendance dip? We've gotten off track to start, but we might as well
okay.
just embrace it.
This.
Let's embrace it. Does church attendance dip when Clemson or South Carolina lose a game?
I really don't think so.
No,
you would think so, Clemson, but I don't know if it does. It's because people are at the games. I don't think they stay home because they lost. I don't feel.
I mean, in fairness, Clemson hasn't lost a ton.
That's true, but I feel like the people who are super faithful to the church are super faithful to the church. But
so when we moved to the Upstate 7 years ago, I mean, Georgia fan, we have serious rivals: Georgia, Auburn, Georgia, Florida. Like these are big rivalries. It's never come anything close to the way Clemson and South Carolina fans hate each other.
Really?
They hate each other, bro.
Yeah. Well, Alabama, Auburn
is pretty bad.
Is that bad?
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it divides families, man.
Clemson and South Carolina fans are like they hate each other behind each other's backs. So they're really like courteous to their face.
You know why you don't feel that? Because Georgia Tech has not been good in your lifetime.
Yeah, they're trash.
But if they were good, you would feel that.
I mean, everybody who graduates from there is a millionaire, so good on them.
Because when I was growing up, Tech and Georgia was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to college football season starting this Saturday. It's going to be awesome. But I don't even know how we really got there. Before we start discussing hard things for the people at home, what I want to do is just really set them up to know who we are, how we operate. Mm-hmm. And mine and your relationship, it may be a little bit different than some people on staff because there is such a level of like mentor, mentee relationship in the sense that, man, you hired me when I was 23 years old.
Yeah. Super young.
Yeah. I still have, sometimes I wonder what you guys were thinking for sure.
Maybe we weren't.
Maybe you weren't.
So, hey, to tell them where you went, because you just graduated for your degree.
So when you hired me, you had been at First Baptist Simpsonville for a few years.
Yep, two or three.
Mm-hmm. And I had just graduated 4-year university, Georgia Southern University, Hale Southern. All right. And I had a history degree.
History.
And I was maybe like 1 or 2 years into my MDiv. So like I was going to school to be a preacher, and I was actually like a small groups pastor.
Yep.
But I was not preaching every week. And then you called and like you hit it really well. Okay. For people who don't know the story, you did not offer me a job outright.
Just an opportunity to preach.
Just an opportunity. You said, hey man, we got this opportunity to preach, to fill the pulpit. Will you just ride up here for a Sunday and fill it? And me and Jenna did. Now, I'll say, I don't know if I ever told you this, but my grandmother, who was we told people last time, the chairman of the search committee.
That called me to Oak Hill Baptist.
Right. So she essentially hired you at one point.
She definitely it was. Yeah.
When I told her, I said, we called her Muddy. You called her Martha Sue.
Yep,
right?
Martha Sue.
When
she called me Preacher.
Preacher, that's right. When I went to her, I said, Muddy, she's dead now. She died last year. God, I loved her, miss her. But
one of a kind.
I told her, I said, Muddy, I'm going to preach for Pastor Wayne. And she said, well, has he offered you a job or what's he thinking? And I said, I think he just thinks we're coming to preach. And she looked at me in the face and she said, whatever you think he's doing, he's 5 steps ahead of you. That's what she told me. And I was like, I don't know what that means, right? Like, is he like funny. Got nuclear launch codes or something? He's 5 steps ahead. Is he playing chess? But even from the beginning, I guess what I'm saying is we sensed that God was calling us.
Yeah.
We knew that God was doing something. Jenna didn't really want to move, but we wanted to follow the Lord. Jenna was like, man, Wayne needs to leave us alone.
Right. In so many words.
She actually said some other things, but that's the stuff that we won't say on the podcast. If you know my wife, she's not hesitant to speak her mind at all. Her and Amy get along good for that reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we came, and then you hired me 23, and man, just an opportunity I'll be forever grateful for. But one of the things that gave me was an opportunity just to learn. I'm 31 this year, have been on church staff a while, and just love it here so much. But I really look back and think those 4 or 5 first years especially, but still learning every day, obviously.
Sure.
But
me too.
Those 4 or 5 first years were like instrumental. Like I remember there were times you would call me in your office and you'd say, hey, you did X, don't do X again. Do Y, And never like rebuking, but always just like wanting to put me on the best path, wanting to help me succeed. And so I've always appreciated that level of just mentorship.
I know this isn't on our plan for today, but let me just go and say, what do you think about, do you think that's one of the most valuable things about our model is not only what it was then 7 years ago, but now it's developed into literally we got like 20 guys.
Yeah.
Not 23, but from like literally one dude in high school, and then multiple guys in college. And I mean, we've got a something we call the presentation team's about 26 guys. Of those 26, 12 of them are under the age of 30.
We have a lot of young guys preaching. Yeah.
That are actively rotating and preaching on Sunday mornings. But
this wasn't where we wanted to go, but I think it's actually good to talk about because it's where we're going to end up in just a minute. I think it's an immeasurable win for our model.
Yeah.
So, like, if any other church had hired me at 23, I would have failed almost immediately, probably.
It would have been really tough.
I think I was a decent preacher to start out, but here's the way I've kind of said it. I've grown a ton as a preacher for sure, too. But I think when I was hired, I could preach. Mm-hmm. It took a few years for me to learn how to go from a preacher to a pastor. Mm-hmm. And then it took me a few more years. Maybe I actually probably had this conversation with Jenna not long ago. Probably took me the rest of that time until even maybe this past year. I really felt like God was shifting some stuff in my heart this past year. Took me the rest of that time to figure out how to become a pastor to a leader.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. Pastor, you can care for somebody's heart. You can love them. You can shepherd them.
For sure.
But when you become a pastor leader, you know where people need to be. You are maybe even where your church needs to go, right? At the Upstate Church.
Yeah.
And so it took really just now, going into my 8th year, feel equipped to lead in big conversations. So, man, an immeasurable part of our success.
Yeah. Now, so I'm the old guy at 52. So I'm the oldest guy on the teaching team. And as the old guy, and there's really only 2 others in their mid to late 40s. And so the vast majority of our teaching team, young guys. And so the cool thing is, like, we're able to, it's really about modeling, assisting, watching, and leaving. So we model, I got that from a missionary years ago, but the mall theory. And so we model what it looks like to preach effectively and faithfully to the word and pastor. But we assist others while they do it, and we actually do preaching labs,
right.
kind of a
Actually help
group,
people learn to
group
preach.
critique,
Right.
constantly. Even tomorrow, we're going to be talking about training and leadership development and all that kind of stuff with the guys. But then you move from modeling, assisting, and you watch somebody. So you watch them do what they're hoping to do one day, pastoring, preaching, and then eventually they're ready. You leave them in the sense of they're in the role, and now you still got accountability. But it really is. It's one of the, I feel like, best things that God does to our church. But I feel like it's even one of the best things we're at. I only say that to say, man, if there's a young guy watching right now,
for sure.
like if there's somebody who's like in college, I don't care if it's $10 too, man. If they're out west and they just happen upon the podcast, they're like, man, God's called me to ministry. I don't know what to do, where to go. After they get out of college, they need to come over and be a resident and spend 2 years with us on the team, man.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
1,000%. I love what you're doing there. Kirby says always be recruiting.
That's right.
That's what you're doing.
That's what we're doing, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's invaluable, and I think a lot of pastors would save themselves a lot of heartache, even of their own doing sometimes, but they'd save themselves a lot of heartache by being in a position like I've been in which, just to clarify, a position that I have no interest in leaving. That sounded like,
right.
But to learn how to pastor and how to lead, and man, it's an opportunity that I'm forever grateful for. And now 8 years, I'm the first hub that we've had.
Right.
So it just a chance to even not only just learn, but to grow and stretch a little bit, which it has been. Yeah. It has been stretching, has been growing. We don't have a roof right now, so there are obstacles.
Right. That's recent news.
Yeah.
But I need to say this too, because I feel like where we've been, we're transitioning. We just told the team yesterday we're transitioning in a lot of ways this next initiative, next 2 years. But I think in a lot of ways we've been trying to almost build like a pipeline and a farm system, if you will. I can't help but use sports analogies, but to develop leaders for our system, if you will. Right. I do think we're shifting into, and what my heart and my vision would be for the future is, even if pastors are watching right now, is that they send their young guys to our church for development and training, and we send them back.
We help. Right.
I mean, like, I feel like God's going to use our church to really help develop leaders for churches around Big C Church, not just in the upstate, not just in South Carolina, but really around across the country, around the world.
So all that to say, to lead us into our topic.
Yep.
For the past 8 years, I've had a unique privilege to learn. And like, to be clear, I've learned from a lot of people at Upstate Church. Like there are a couple people who stick out in my mind for different things. Like I'll just give you a couple examples. Mm-hmm. I've learned more from Pat Gillen over the past 8 years about like how to handle hard situations. Have you ever seen Pat in a hard situation?
Dude, he's unbelievable at representing our church and being the face of the consistency and the message and the love in the face of sometimes really difficult, angry people.
Yeah.
And he handles that better than anybody I know.
So I've learned from Pat how to handle hard situations. I've learned from Brian Owens. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like Brian's the ultimate diplomat. Mm. Brian never says more than he needs to say, but somehow always says enough.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a good leadership.
Steady.
Yeah, I mean,
you want to talk about somebody who lives out the testimony.
Yeah,
you know, the tragedies that he's faced and staying faithful.
I've learned from unexpected sources.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about team building from people like Emily Toole. Like,
absolutely.
Great team builder. I say all that to say I've been in a situation where I could learn a lot from a lot of different people. But I have not learned more from anybody than I have from you. And this may surprise you. I know it won't now because I told you off the air just a few minutes ago. I have a note on my phone titled Things I Learned from Wayne. And so now,
does it say stupid stuff Wayne said?
There may be some stupid stuff you said on there, but it was written down for a reason. And so this note started somewhere along the way over the past 8 years. You said something, and when you said something, it was something I went, like, that's good, right? And so I would just write it down. And some of it's honestly, some of it's nothing. Some of it's like just good, practical, pithy wisdom. Like,
could be cheesy.
Right. Sometimes you got to plow around a stump and move on, right?
Which is, I say a lot.
That's right.
You know why I say that a lot?
Why?
There's a lot of stumps.
Amen. All right. Some things are like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're just sayings. Other things, though, have been real life lessons for me, things that I've learned. And so what I want to do is give you an opportunity to teach our staff who listen, but our congregation who's going to be listening to this, to teach our congregation some of the things that you've taught me, maybe even unintentionally. All right.
All right.
So here's what I'm going to do. I've got a list. I think there were maybe 15, 16 things on the list, which if you boil it down, it's like you've taught me 2 things a year.
Right.
So I thought that's pretty good.
Not a lot.
But it's not nothing.
That's true.
So you've taught me a couple things a year, 15, 16 things. I'm not even going to do all of them. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I can't do all of them because there's some you probably don't want me to say on air.
Okay.
If you want the unedited version, hit me up in church lobby one day and I'll tell you all the things, all right?
And sometimes I will talk too much in between and we might not get all.
Yeah. So we're not going to get all of them, but and some of them we talked about on the last episode. So I'll give you an example. The last episode, we kind of talked. This is something I've written down that you said specific, word for word before. It's easy to coast, but answering the call of God's always good and right. We talked about that last episode, right? That's charging on. That's moving forward. That's going forward. Some of the other ones that we didn't get to on the last episode, I just want to lean into a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll read the statements. You can kind of tell us what they mean.
All right.
From your pastor heart. Even like imagine this from a couple different scenarios. Imagine a church member out there you're pastoring. So you're just teaching these people wise principles. Imagine there's somebody else you're mentoring out there that you're saying, hey, this is how I want to walk you through this from a pastor's perspective. All right, let me give you a couple. This is the first one that I'm going to do, and I'll say this one's been cleaned up, but I asked your permission off air, so I'm going to say both of these, okay? The cleaned up version is this. If you realize people are sinful, you'll feel sorry for them, not mad at them. Now, let's just go with that version because that's definitely something you said. Now,
by cleaned up, you don't mean I cussed.
No, I don't mean
the original.
I'll say the.
Because I don't think I did.
No, I'll say the non-clean version in just a second.
Okay.
But tell me what you mean by that. If you realize people are sinful, you'll feel sorry for them, not mad at them.
Yeah, I think we just posture. We as in the church.
Right.
I think Christians are super good at being aggressive at sin. And I understand. I mean, we should, in many ways, hate the sin, love the sinner. Isn't that what we've always heard? You know, hate the sin, love the sinner. But we're not good at that. We're really more about hating sinful people.
Hating's easy.
Oh, man. And I mean, like, so, and it kind of dips into some of the other stuff you got down here. But I mean, like, I think how we respond to sinful people really determines how effective we are at the mission, which is really everything, if I'm being honest, goes back to mission.
Okay.
So, like, the reason that we shouldn't be postured in a hateful way is because it's not effective. That's not what Jesus. You look at, like, you just read through the Gospels and read what Jesus did and how he responded to sinful people. I'm talking like sinful people, like the woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery, the Mark 5, the demon possessed man. I mean, you know, there's likely some stuff. Compassion.
Right.
That's like.
Bent toward them.
Holy smoke. Like legitimately over the top loving those people. Now he said go and sin no more. Always totally truthful, but loving. You know the people he got ticked off at? The religious elitists.
Right. Who were mad.
He was like calling them vipers.
Right.
You brood of vipers. He literally said you're whitewashed tombs filled with dead men's bones.
Right.
Those were religious people.
Right.
Not the adulterous woman.
Right.
So I think that's probably the heart of that is like, man, when we see somebody broken in sin, we need to look at them as people who are in bondage.
Yeah.
They're like legitimately not victims in the sense that they're innocent, but they're victims of their own foolishness and rebellion, and they just need grace that we already have.
Yeah, and that goes in another statement that's on the list. I'll come back to the unedited version of that one just because I won't leave people.
I might recognize it now.
Yeah. But another version of that same thing. It's just I wrote it down differently. Lost people act like lost people. They need the gospel, not our anger. So the same thing, but a different way. I kept both of them though in my note because one thing that I feel like you've done a really good job of helping me with, and this plays out actually practically in my life. Lost people act like lost people. If you see people as lost or saved, and lost people act like lost people, you don't get mad at them, but you view them as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so this happened to me even just the other day in a situation. I felt offended. I felt slighted. I felt like that someone had done me wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And in that moment, I realized, well, the person who just did this, they're lost. Like they don't have Christ in their life. Ephesians 2:11, at one time you were once who were far off from Christ, separated from God, strangers to the covenants of promise, right? if you see that in people, you begin to recognize, no, these people, they don't need your anger.
No.
They're just doing what's natural to them. They're lost. They need you to see them as an opportunity.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to tell a story which is a real life issue. We didn't talk about this before, but I feel like it'd be helpful, and it'll let people know how honest we're going to be on this. All right.
Okay.
So, like, first 3 years I was here.
Okay.
At First Baptist Simpsonville, I had a couple come to me in the office, and those were a lot of changes. A lot of change were happening, and by and large, the vast majority of our people, super loving, encouraging, and we came through it, and God's grace, man, was just all over it, and God's blessed our church. But there were a couple of tough conversations, and one of those was a couple that came really upset, sat down, and literally, bro, pulled out a piece of paper. I don't know if I ever told you the story.
Aired their grievances.
Sat down the piece of paper,
Wow.
slid it across the table, said, here's a list of the things that we have a problem with. I was like, oh, okay, this is really great.
Like, was it just like a couple things? The
No,
paper was full.
It was pretty full. They were all restatements of the same issue.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and this is somebody who had been for a long time, and I want everybody to understand, my heart is like 100%. At 10 years at Beulah Baptist Church, I literally could count on one hand the number of people who left our church. So I'm the guy who does whatever I can to keep the family together. I'm not accustomed to people not being unified, and I depend on unity. So this was really tough. But this couple, mainly the man did the talking, said something to the effect of, he came to worship this Sunday. This was his case in point, big picture, exclamation point on his grievance. He said, man, came in church and I saw this man with shorts on and flip-flops in the traditional service. And he had his daughter right beside him with shorts and flip-flops on. And he said, man, can you imagine what this did? And the thought that came to my mind, and I stopped him and I said his name. I said, brother, yeah, did you think, I wonder if this man knows Jesus?
Right.
And honestly, it's like I called his mama a name, because it immediately was like, no, that's not what. And he literally said that. He said, no, that's not what question came. What are they doing in the service? Why are they in church with shorts on and flip-flops? And so my response was pretty pointed, because he had really started the whole conversation about, I don't think we're on the same page. I don't think we're going the same direction. And at that point, I told him, I said, I think you're 100% right. I said, the fact of the matter is, if you're more concerned about the guy having shorts on and flip-flops than where he's going to spend eternity, we're not on the same page. Because my heart is bent toward caring about lost people. And that ought to be. It's not that we're not going to try to help them do things right in sanctification,
right,
and live
right.
Build
up believers, for sure.
But that's not the main thing. Our main thing is that they meet Jesus. Because if they change without Jesus, all they are is whitewashed tombs filled with dead men's bones.
That's right.
That's not the goal.
Man, so let me ask, did they leave? Did that couple leave?
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling the story.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean,
and it wasn't a public thing. Nobody knows.
Right. So I think the thing that kind of shows me, is like there was the filter, and this truly is a filter you have to put on to the way you see the world.
Yes.
Right. Like I think that's what you've encouraged to me, to other people, like see the world through this lens. But it's almost like putting on sunglasses. Like that's a choice you have to make to put them on.
And it's not going to be easy. There's always going to be a challenge. And look, just because it's been here 10 years, and I will say I haven't had a conversation like that in many years.
For sure. Yeah.
Our church is so
different spot now.
Geared toward, and even then it was evangelistic church. It's just a very different, right now it's but having said that, I'm just, been around long enough to know that doesn't mean it couldn't happen tomorrow again.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we, like going back to the last episode, we're bad about chasing turtles.
Right.
And a turtle will jump out there and we'll stop the car and try to get distracted if we're not careful. So anyway.
It's funny. I think it kind of goes back to the idea of like take up your cross and follow Jesus. But sometimes we get caught up on what we think is important because we're looking at the world through the eyes of what we think is right instead of the lens of what God thinks is right. But as I heard a preacher say one time, it's so absolutely foolish to stand beside the cross and demand your rights.
Wow. Yeah.
Like Jesus was. That's really good. Jesus literally went to the cross and gave up rights, gave up preference, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And now sometimes we just get in this mindset, and it's not. Listen, this person who you're talking about, not a bad person, I'm sure.
I'll be honest with you. Really, shocked me because
That's right.
I loved them. They loved us.
And I think we can all get in this mindset where if we're not careful, we're not putting on the mind of Christ. We're not putting on the mind that God told us to see the world in. And then so what happens is we view the world through our own mindset, and we're victims and we're offended when lost people are just acting like lost people.
Sure.
And if Jesus had acted that way, man, where would we be? Like
lost.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. All right, let me go back to the unclean version of the first statement.
Okay.
All right. So the way I cleaned it up was, if you realize people are sinful, you'll feel sorry for them, not mad at them, which is definitely something you said. But I've also heard you say it this way. All right, and I want to know. I want to know what you mean.
Okay.
If you realize that some people are just being stupid, you can love them.
Yeah, I probably even, here's how, because there definitely is a way I used to say that was less effective. And I would say this is probably the way I've learned it, if it's the same thing that you've heard me say. And that is like, if you treat stupid people like they're toddlers.
Yes. I felt like toddlers was kind of offensive, but go ahead. You said it now.
It may offend
he said
people,
it, not me.
But you need to hear, I feel like wisdom. If you treat people, I'll say foolish. That's a more acceptable word. If you treat people who are being foolish or spiritually immature.
Okay.
Let's get real spiritual, all right? So when people...
So we're not saying stupid. Stupid's a bad word.
Spiritually immature. When people act spiritually immature, because anybody can. In their 50s, in their 70s, in their 30s, in their teens. When someone acts spiritually immature, if you treat them like a toddler, you're able to show them grace. I had to do that. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, I used to think it was a gift. I used to think, okay, hey, I'm just gifted to be more diplomatic and caring for people. I think that's bull, man. I think it's really just a decision we make of how we look at people. If they're spiritually immature, they are a spiritual toddler.
Right.
Here's the deal. If a toddler is pinching my leg and scratching me and
not mad at them,
just punching my leg, I'm not going to be mean.
Right.
I'm not happy about it. And I'm going to try to tell their parent, hey, would you please get the toddler off my leg? But I'm going to treat a 18-month-old differently than I would an 18-year-old.
Right.
But sometimes we look at people who are doing foolish things, acting the fool in church, even if they're a Christian, but they're spiritually mature, even they're senior adult. We just get mad.
Right. The thing that makes me think about, we talked about Jenna a little bit before, but Jenna was a pharmacist for, it had to be close to a decade.
Yeah.
Doctor of pharmacy, making good money. And I don't know, you'd have to ask her to get the full story, but I'm not sure she ever really enjoyed it. Yeah. I think there were things she enjoyed about it, but never really loved it.
Yeah.
But she's a school teacher now and really does enjoy it. And I've asked her before, I'm like, what is the difference? Like, why is one thing easier to you? Because, hey, I would think dealing with kids all day could not possibly be easier than counting pills and putting them in a bottle.
Right.
Personally, I'm like, I would take the pills and put them in a bottle. But here's what she said to me. I think this is what it's kind of goes in lines. She said to me multiple times, it's really easy for me to give grace to a kid where it's really hard to give grace to an adult.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. So spiritually, I think if we see people who are spiritually immature as babies, they're spiritual babies. That doesn't mean they need to stay there, but it does mean we treat them differently.
Yeah, that's good.
And so here's what I found too. Sometimes if I react in anger, it actually elevates their voice because it becomes an echo chamber.
That's really good.
It's true too. I mean, I'm telling you, you can make a mountain out of a molehill. That's obviously a little saying people say, but it's totally true. You can help. It's like this. When somebody, and this happens to me, man. I know this will shock everybody, but I'll occasionally get somebody say something on Facebook and a post about our church.
Right.
The worst thing I could do is comment on their post.
Because then it elevates it.
It elevates it. So if somebody makes a terrible statement about our church or about me as an individual, because it happens, and they don't know me, they don't know anything. Sometimes the people you help the most hurt us the most. It's just true, man. I mean, I'm telling you, benevolence needs. We have like poured out love on people, and then them turn around and hate us in the weirdest way. And so the worst thing I can do in that way, if I comment on that, what ends up happening is then everybody that is my friend, everybody that follows me, then they all see it. When otherwise, it would just be the people. So that is in the same way. I think sometimes when we react, when people are foolish, we're fools ourselves.
Yeah. That's really good. I want to move on because I want to get more than just a couple of these. I'm going to say some more of them, but we won't talk about them all.
Okay.
One of them is lesson number 5, truth and grace is the way the mission goes forward. You could talk about that for hours if I let you. I'm not going to let you because that's kind of the same thing.
Yep.
Legalism versus liberalism, you've kind of talked through that.
I talk about it a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to read a couple of these, and maybe you can pick one or two. I've heard you say this.
Let me say this real quick. Yeah. I heard somebody recently. It was Luke Simmons from Ironwood Church. He described truth and grace. I just love this. He said, we want to have soft hearts and steel spines.
That's good.
Come on, man.
That actually is really good. Soft hearts, steel spines.
There you go.
So that's who we want to be.
I love it. Anyway, so sorry I interrupted.
Let me give you a couple more. Okay. You can do great things for God if you're willing to give him all yourself. That's a good one. God uses hard workers more than lazy people.
Yeah, that's kind of common sense. Huh?
Yeah, so here's the reason I do want to take just a second for that, all right?
Yeah.
Maybe you say it's common sense, but like we live in this super, super day of like ruthless elimination of hurry, right? No shade on John Mark Comer. I mean, whatever.
Although not a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not my first author, but I mean, he's a brother.
Yes.
So, grace to him.
There's a lot of debate. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. But
that's not what the episode's about.
Maybe another episode on penal substitution.
There you go.
But so no shade on Comer, but he writes Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Yes.
And to me, from my perspective, it almost convinced an entire generation that the thing they needed to do more than anything else is slow down.
Right.
And
some of them were already going 20 miles an hour.
Right. And some of them were already like sleeping on mom's couch and don't have a job. Like
you just went there. You just went there.
So I guess my thought is like, you've always been a good model of like, God, for some reason, God always blesses hard workers more than lazy people. And the sovereignty of God, it always works out that way. What does it look like? Why is that true? What does it look like to work hard for God and not like coast?
Yeah. So I'm a 2-talent dude. I like if you're looking at 1, 2, and 5 talent, the parable of the talents. I've just recently kind of put this together. I feel like I'm a 2-talent guy. I'm not a 5-talent guy.
Right.
I'm not a 1-talent guy.
You got a little work.
I got some stuff, man. I got some skill. I got some abilities. I'm not the guy though. I'm not the guy that would naturally rise to the top if I'm coasting. Right. No possible way. I would not have graduated from any of my degrees had I coasted.
Right.
I'm not the guy who doesn't have to study.
Right.
0 chance. I'm not the guy. I'll just be super honest with you. On Sunday mornings, if I walked into the pulpit and I didn't have, if I had not read my text at least 3 or 4 times that morning, I would struggle reading through it.
Okay.
I'm just not that guy. I'm not the excellent guy.
Right.
Anything that God does through me that appears to be excellent is because I busted my can to do it, and God blessed it.
Right.
All right. And I'm not saying that takes anything away from sovereignty of God, to your point. But I just, all you got to do is point to Scripture, Ephesians 2:8-10. We read 8 and 9, forget 10 most of the time. But it totally says, by grace you've been saved through faith, that not of yourself is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Grace, grace, grace. Everybody loves the grace banner, but they forget 10 where it says you are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works before the foundation. So the whole idea is that the way he shows his grace is by empowering us to do something with what he's done and what he's given us. So I believe God takes the 2-talent man, if we invest it right, and turns him into a 4 or 5-talent man. Right. And so if there's anything that appears to be 4 or 5 talents in me, it's because I just give everything I got, everything.
I just think that's really important because, listen, we don't want to be the people who encourage people to burn out.
No.
Right? I don't want to burn out, but I don't want to wash out either. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so
that's good.
That
was so good, man.
But it's true, like I want to burn up. Like I want to. The last day, I want to die tired.
Yeah.
But I think I've had good people model that it's okay to work hard. Like it's okay to love the church, to work hard, to do things that are tiring, and go to bed tired.
And you know what? A lot of this is kind of a different subject, but it's similar in a way. A lot of the reason why a lot of churches struggle is because they get in a posture of putting out fires rather than remembering God called them to start them.
That's right.
And it's the same kind of vibe in the sense that we just get so overwhelmed by the distractions that sometimes we're just like, we disconnect and we're like, I gotta go take a break.
What do you mean?
Take a nap spiritually.
What do you mean we're called to start fires?
So just, I feel like God, literally we're fire starters. If you think even like the foundation of the word preach, comes from the idea of
Kerosene.
kerosene. Yeah. So it's like we're fire starters. There's power in the gospel. I mean, it's like literally the electric power that turns the lights on. Without the power, there's no light. And I do think that sometimes we just forget God's called us to be fire starters.
Yeah.
To how are they going to hear without a preacher?
That's right.
And so we've got to be the ones that aren't so consumed about maintaining. I feel like a lot of churches have to choose between maintenance and mission. So if we focus on completely managing and maintaining, then we're not doing anything with mission.
That's good.
Sometimes when you do the mission, you lose. You always choose to lose, and sometimes your choice has to be to walk away from the maintenance, at least for a season, while you're pursuing and investing in the sowing, so that God would produce the
I like
increase.
that. I don't think I've ever heard you say that. Be a fire starter.
Write that down.
That's good. That's a new one. Number 17 right here. Hey, a couple more.
Yep.
This is one that you model really good. Now, so I'll really good, really well.
Really well. It's effective.
So
good grammar.
I'm from South Georgia.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't do the Gramercy.
So how do you say war movie?
WAR, war movie. All right.
Sorry, that was an inside joke.
Inside joke. If you want to know more about that, catch Wayne in the lobby. All right. This has meant a lot to me. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Don't try to build a platform. Just stand on the platform God gives you.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm a product of social media age. So I can remember I had to get on Facebook when you had to sit down at a computer to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's really turned into more than connection. Now it's platform, right? It's
for ministry. It seems like it's all it becomes.
I think maybe people don't even realize that ministers, preachers in particular, are prone to be really tempted by it, right? Get yourself out there.
Almost feel obligated.
Make yourself famous.
Yeah.
And sometimes for good reason, right? Mm-hmm. Get the word out.
There can be good motivation.
For sure. But then it turns into maybe instead of you building God's kingdom, you're building your own.
For sure.
And for me personally, I'm not saying I wouldn't pass judgment on any preacher who's doing that. Right? It's hard to
assume the best.
That's right. It's hard to understand a person's motives. Yeah. But for me personally, I've always really struggled with how to do that because I don't want to be seen as like, man, here's Dallas putting himself forward.
Correct.
And so I've really struggled with that. And you have always stood on this stage. I've actually not just heard you say this one time. I've heard you say this a multitude of times. I've heard you say, don't try to build your own platform. Just stand on the one God gives you. What do you mean by that?
So we're surrounded by, I'll give you an example. I mean, there's been times I wanted to publish a book, and some people may automatically say, well, big church pastor, you should be able to do that. It's not really that way because it's about, in a lot of ways, more personality.
Right.
In our day, a following of a personality rather than a significant impact, and sometimes even the content of his voice or her voice. That's what's messed up.
That's right.
Is the value of the content or the message sometimes becomes less important to how many people follow him on Twitter.
That's right.
And so I've just never focused on
now.
X. Sorry, that's right. And Instagram. So I'm on social media and Facebook. Oddly enough, because of my age, probably I learn more to Instagram. I try to be in Twitter. But here's the truth about all that stuff. If we're not careful, it becomes all consuming, and we start thinking that I'm not validated unless I have a huge number of followers and that kind of stuff. And so that is my heart has been. I had to really come to grips in my own heart, my own life, that I didn't want to be a platform builder because I feel like ministry sets you up to where that is the natural tendency. Even if people do it unconsciously, they tend to build a platform for themselves. And what I've tried to be committed to is exactly what you just said. And that is if God wants to lift us up, because, James actually says that you submit yourself and he'll lift you up in due time.
That's right.
So we know that God does lift people up. And in his providence, God may choose to lift some people to a position of influence, voice, to where they are followed by and respected by a multitude of people. My conviction is, if God does that, I'll take it.
But
I don't want to be the one that builds.
That's good.
And so I feel like that's the same for any of our guys. We may have guys that eventually have that kind of following, but I want God to be the one that does it.
Right. That's been such a good influence for me because that leads into one of the last things I'll share. We'll wind down here. You've said, I wrote this down. This is actually a separate statement. So this is how I've had to start viewing things like platforms. Platforms are for making Jesus known, not yourself. And so I just think it's a really dangerous thing to want to be known more than Jesus is known. You know? And,
well, even in the car, we're talking about something totally different, but I think we said earlier, what'd I say? I think I asked people in the car if we knew who the pastor 4 pastors back was at First Baptist Simpsonville.
Right.
And it's a tough answer. And we're talking 40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. And I know people watching this, some of them are going to know.
Yeah, so we could name you.
Grizzle,
we can
Harling.
name Harling. Yeah. We can name Grizzle, and then we got stuck.
Yeah, and then there's definitely some people who were really close to that pastor and even pastors before. But here's the thing I think that is pretty shocking, and that is in 40 years, the vast majority of the people at our church will not remember my name. Right. 40 years. We're not talking about 100.
Right. We're talking about half a century.
That's bizarre. And it shows us how little we are. If my life, it's so like real deal for me. If my whole life investment in ministry is to make much of my name and don't nobody know it in 40 years, I've wasted my dadgum life. I don't want to waste my life on me. So, but if my life is all about making Jesus famous, then I can know that that's going to have a lasting impact because of the people. We're multiplying our mission. We're doing everything we can to raise up new leaders. And even if they forget Dallas, even if they forget Wayne, they won't forget Jesus.
That's good. And you've really modeled that out, and it's made a big impact on me. I'm going to read one more, and we'll wrap up. Last one here. Take the mission of God seriously, but not yourself. Man, that's always been such an encouragement to me. This is serious business, right?
For sure.
But like you said, in 40 years, we'll be forgotten.
No.
Yeah.
And I for me, it's even like if you take things too serious, take yourself too seriously, you start thinking you're the stuff. Right. I mean, I don't even know. That's not even bad about somebody or saying that, because I would do it if I let myself.
Right.
I don't know of a man in ministry who, if they didn't give themselves over, even to the tendency of the membership of most churches actually want somebody to lift up.
Right.
I mean, literally Moses, I know this Old Testament wasn't New Testament church, but Moses goes to the mountain for a little while to talk with God, and they like raise Aaron up to, hey, make a calf out of some jewelry. It doesn't take people long. They want something.
They need something
to worship. And I think it doesn't, and church size has nothing to do with this. I've seen churches of 100 who worship their pastor.
That's right.
I've seen churches of 5,000 worship their pastor. In both cases, it's idolatry.
That's right.
And so I just feel like we don't need to take ourselves too seriously, or we'll start believing the headlines. Yeah. We'll start thinking we're the stuff.
What I've noticed about that, the reason I close with that one is because it's had such an impact on me. Maybe one of the biggest ones has been that one. Because if I ever find myself getting offended or, being insulted by people, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, whatever, it's not because they're wrong in their complaint, but because I've taken myself too seriously to be hurt by their complaint,
Yeah.
So that's meant a lot for me. Let me ask this. Of all these lessons, if you could teach people listening just one, that you would say, hey, man, this is one thing I'll leave you with. If Wayne Bray, this is not going to happen, but if Wayne Bray doesn't make it home and you wanted to leave the people listening with one lesson, what would it be?
You can't give him too much.
That's good.
Yeah, you can't surrender too much. I feel like we draw lines in the sand. We'll say, we'll do this much for Jesus. Here's, I surrender all except this, and I, there are going to be opportunities in the next couple of years, even real opportunities. Sometimes our people have opportunities to go to new campuses now. They've planted new locations, and that's super sacrificial. We've been a sending culture. Our people are going to have opportunities, I think, to really answer a call to international missions in a way they haven't before. God's going to send some people, man. I believe God's going to shake some people loose, and we're going to be planting churches across the country that aren't necessarily going to feed back into an Upstate Church benefit, other than the Big C Church, Kingdom of God across the nation. So you can't give him too much.
You can't give him too much.
No.
That's awesome.
Give him all you got. If we could give him everything we got, it wouldn't be enough. So at least we can do is give him all we got.
Man, we've covered a lot today. We've covered full surrender to God, college football. I'm excited for season 1 of the podcast. It's going to be great. Again, if you are listening in, be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Be sure to share us on social media. Invite more people into the following. We just want to equip believers to charge on in their everyday life, to take the hill, to keep going, just one more for the Lord. That's what we're really here to encourage people. So if you find this useful, let us know. And until next time, be sure to charge on.
Charge on.